You're going to blink and you'll be celebrating your 21st birthday. And the next thing you know, you'll be celebrating 35. And the next thing you know, you're going to celebrate 40. And you're going to go, what did I just do? Why did I come up here?
What is the first thing you ever created that made you feel like an artist?
I would come into the kitchen and where my parents were sitting, and I would put on concerts. I would, sing, and they would applaud. And I got great affirmation from that, in the sense that, like, I did a thing, they enjoyed it, they applauded because of what I did.
So what I do now is I work in tourism. So I'm currently the executive director at Visit Harford. But before that, I spent 20 years in radio.
So, like, there was a great interview with Clive Davis, the record executive. He's the one who found Whitney Houston. I think it was Oprah, actually, who asked, who is the next Whitney Houston or something? And he said, there won't be. And he said this very respectfully. He said, I can go into any Baptist church and I can pull you 8 more Whitney Houstons. Why would I do that as a businessman?
Welcome to Whimsy and Grits. This is an interview series about the real side of building a creative career. Not just the arts, but the decisions, compromises, reinventions, acts of courage, and acts of promotion that help creative work find its audience. In this conversation, we have Tyler Zeisloft, who is a very good friend of mine. We just figured out that we've known each other for 30 years. But the focus is not simply on his biography, it's on also what aspiring creatives can learn from a life built across performance, radio, marketing, family, and community. And Tyler, what I think is so interesting about your story is that it challenges a lot of the myths that artists grow up with. You started in performance as an actor and a singer. You built a career helping other artists get heard on the radio for about almost 20 years. But yet you kept making art where and when you could, and you stayed rooted in Maryland. You built a family, you battled depression, and you kept going. And for people trying to build a real creative life, not just a glamorous looking one, I think that there's a lot to learn from that. So I know that you have a lot to say to other people, that a lot of people can learn from your life. So I want to know the first question we always ask, what is the first thing you ever created that made you feel like an artist?
So when I was 8 or 9 years old, maybe 7 or 8 years old, I would put on a cowboy hat or a tank top or what have you, and I would come into the kitchen where my parents were sitting, and I would put on concerts. They didn't know they were at concerts or they were seated for a concert, but I would bring the concert to them. And I would sing, what have you, would put on like a CD or a record or something. Actually, at that time, it was a cassette. But I would, sing, and they would applaud. And I got great affirmation from that, in the sense that, like, I did a thing, they enjoyed it, they applauded because of what I did. And I've, as my psychologist says, everybody comes out with a different set of chutzpah, meaning, like, I came out with the entertainment chutzpah. When you just asked about art, I did not come out with a paintbrush in my hand. I still, but that's what I came onto this earth with. And I think there are some people that don't like that applause. They don't like applause. They wouldn't even be caught dead standing in front of a group of people. Have you seen that meme going around that says, like, when did your anxiety start? And it said when people would read aloud in class, and I would have to count how many kids until it got to me.
No.
I yearned for that. Like, I got pissed if I only got like the 3-sentence paragraph. Like, I wanted the monologue, baby.
We were the annoying theater kids. I would follow my mom around with a book, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so everybody's a little bit different. So yeah, long story short, 7 or 8 is where I think that really sort of came in with the kitchen performances.
Now you're in you're one of the stars in the upcoming documentary Through the Eyes of Others.
I
That
am the star. I am the star.
you are one of the stars. You're one of the stars.
Yes.
And we go into quite a lot of actually deep stuff in the documentary, especially about fame and kind of, expectations as a child and making it versus not making it. And you open up quite a lot about, the expectations you had as a child versus kind of where you ended up now. And I expect that where you were in the documentary is a very different place than where you are now. But I'd love to hear your journey for artists who are coming, who are battling with the idea of wanting to create art versus wanting to become famous, wanting to make a family. Tell us a bit about your journey, what your expectations were, and then where you ended up and the emotions you went through, going through that.
Yeah, sure. So the this is way longer than I'm going to make it, but so when I was from the time I was singing those kitchen songs, I wanted to be in front of people. And then as I got older, it really, I would have had no idea what theater was or how to get involved in theater when I first got into it, if it wasn't for my neighbor across the street who was going to an audition for a children's show. It was Snow White in 1994. And she was like, "Do you want to go?" I was like, "I'll go, sure." And so I went, I sang, I was like, "What do I have to do?" So, it was fun. We practiced and sang a song. And then I went to the audition. And when I did this show and did the rehearsals and stuff, I, I got bit by the bug, as they say, like instantly. When the show ended, which was only like, I don't know, 2 weekends, 2 shows, whatever, I sobbed. I sobbed. And the very next thing I was looking for was the next time to do it. When could I do it again? When could I do it again? And I never stopped doing theater. It was literally a never ending bridge. It was one show to the next show, to the next show, to the next show. And please I don't want anybody to think that that's how it works on Broadway. You just go one show to the next. Like this was community theater, then dinner theater, then summer theater, then repeat, rinse and repeat.
Mm.
So as that's happening and I'm honing my craft that way, and then I learn about Baltimore School for the Arts, where we went to high school. I audition, I get in. So you have to remember everything I'm telling you now, there is no bad news. I get show to show to show to show to performing arts high school that 188 kids auditioned for that year, and they took 18. And I was one of the 18, and you were one of the 18. So there's 4 years of, again, all positives. And even then I was doing theater and musical theater and summer theater. And so it's this like giant roller coaster of like, I don't even call it a roller coaster. It's like a magic carpet ride. Like you're just like, this is fantastic. And so I never really, there was only one time in that entire experience that I did not get what I wanted. And I'll never forget it. I was auditioning for The Sound of Music, and I wanted to be Friedrich, the oldest son of the Von Trapp family. And
Oh, I could see that.
yeah, well, and it came down to hair color. I'll never forget this. If Liesel was going to be a blonde, then Friedrich and Kurt were going to be brown hair.
But you have blonde tips.
I'll trust and believe I. But so anyhow, it didn't work in my favor. So I was devastated.
You weren't blonde?
I don't really remember exactly what it was.
Okay.
Whatever it was supposed to contrast to whatever Liesel was. Regardless of all that, I didn't get something for the first time. And I did not know how to handle that. I cried the entire way home because that's the musical. That's what I watched as a kid. I broke our VHS tape because my mom said I always used to say, I want to hear the children sing. So I would play it over and over and over again. And so when I didn't get that, I was very upset. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
How old were you?
when I didn't get that part.
Yeah.
Probably just before BSA. I would probably 13, 12, something like that.
Okay.
Um,
And
and
did that
then
impact you as like at the time, did you take that personally? Were you like, this, I am a horrible person? Was that like a personal attack?
so
Or how did it
I
feel?
don't I that's a great question because I'm gonna say yes, because the person who got Friedrich was a friend of mine, and the director had directed me 2 years prior in something else. So it was
Mm.
that, like, I'm just ouch from both sides. You know what? But as you get older, obviously I've gotten over it. Um,
I hope so.
but yeah,
Lots of
but
years of
so
therapy.
okay, School for the Arts, 4 years of School for the Arts and doing all the theater, and then we apply for colleges. My SAT scores were abysmal. Not that I was a bad student and got bad grades. I was a bad test taker. And I still am a bad test taker. Um, but I
Okay.
applied for what's that?
Like tests are, who cares? Like tests are so stupid. I
Oh, I
get
know.
why we need them, but they're absolutely ridiculous.
I agree. I would say the same for homework, but uh, that's not what this podcast is about.
No.
Um, but so they were abysmal, and I also I do not come from white collar at all, and I'm not saying everybody else does, but when it was time to apply for colleges and to see that like you had to pay to apply for a college, I was like, this is ridiculous. You got to pay for something you're not even getting the money back that you might not even get in. It's just a money grab. So I applied to one college. It was University of the Arts in Philadelphia. I applied to be, or auditioned, interviewed to be a musical theater major, and I got in. So
So
again, there was no rejection from 1994 to 2004. No rejection.
you had one weasel. Eisel. What Eisel? Weasel?
Friedrich. Lisa Lynn is the sister.
Right, okay, gotcha. And you weren't even cut from the musical theater ensemble, so that wasn't a rejection either for
No,
you.
I wasn't. I was not.
Unlike some people, but yeah.
Yes. Megan was cut. Her number was squashed.
Yes. My voice wasn't good enough, but okay. So you're in college. You're like, I'm going to be a star. You're a white man in musical theater, white straight man in musical theater, as you often say.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even say that to. I definitely don't say that to like lift myself up or put anyone down. But in that time, or even dare I say, still that time, it's rare. So it has its benefits to a director and a creative team.
Well, I think also the authenticity of, being a male lead, the love interest or something is also, there's that. Yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
then, and your expectations, so you leave University of the Arts, you graduate. Are you auditioning while you're, also when you were in Baltimore School for the Arts, you got a couple of parts in some movie, like small parts in movies as well, right?
Right. Yeah. So I did Blair Witch 2. I was a day player in the sequel to the Blair Witch Project.
Sweet.
I was a featured extra or extra in Liberty Heights, the Barry Levinson film, Young Americans, which was the spinoff to Dawson's Creek.
Which Naomi was on a bunch of episodes.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, now that you bring that up, there was some rejection, but it wasn't in the sense that like I had my whole heart in the bag of wanting to get it. Meaning like I auditioned a couple times for Homicide: Life on the Street, which was a TV show that played was out of Baltimore. But I didn't fit the part, other than they were looking for young white male.
Mm.
So like, it, I do think that School for the Arts, at least at that time, taught me like, look, there's gonna be a lot of people going out for this, but they want to see you also. So it wasn't like when you do community theater, it's like you're in the lobby waiting to go in, and everybody that's in there, you know who's probably gonna get what. You just sort of have to show up and do the thing to get the thing. Um, this is completely different. So just the auditioning part was not rejection because they let me audition.
Most of the things that you've auditioned for, even if they're small parts, like they're still in big productions, you're getting them, you're at University of the Arts. And then what was there something that happened that that made you decide to like stop? Because what was your goal at that point? Was it to become a famous actor on Broadway, or?
So that's a great question. So when I somewhere around 2003, I really started falling in love. Country music has always been something I enjoyed. Country music has a great way of making the struggle sound glamorous, in the sense that like I was singing for tips in a pickle jar, and in these smoky bars, and they make it sound like it's bad, but that song is playing on the radio, so how bad can it really be? And I was just very torn. A director or a person of importance made a comment to me that that I was ready to do the next thing,
Mm-hmm.
become a professional at it. And instead of, it's almost like you're in that skydiving plane and you got your trainer holding the door open saying jump. Instead of me jumping, I like sat back in my chair and that's like the first time I ever did that. It's almost like I really love the chase of the dream,
Mm-hmm.
but as soon as I got close to it, I pulled back. And
Now
I
looking
don't
back,
know.
because I know like obviously there's been a lot of time between then, and obviously I've watched an interview of you many times over the last couple of years. Us kind of discussing this moment, and but do you think that it was because sometimes I think do you think it was fear, or do you think it was maybe a soul, like a deeper soul thing speaking to you, maybe knowing that that wasn't your path? And I know that's like kind of spiritual or whatever to say that, but I think sometimes we can look back on those moments and think, I failed, I fucked up, like. But sometimes I also think that sometimes our soul is saving us from something. And I'll just give you a quick anecdote as why I think this, and then I'll let you respond. But there was a moment where I was in LA, and I was I would just fall in love with my ex, and had the choice to move to England, and I had literally had like a big McDonald's audition like that same day, like the day that I was going to move to England, and I decided not to go because I chose love. But looking back, and so I'm working with my spiritual guru for many years, and she said, actually, like in that moment, you saved your life because LA is so toxic, and I really believe that had I stayed in LA, I would not be in the same state of Megan that is here today. Like I would be a much different, probably soulless person. So that's my anecdote. Like, do you relate to that at all? Or do you still look at it as like a failure? Or
failure is a harsh word. And I feel like that's why every time people use the word failure, like you just did, you sort of like grind your teeth, because you don't mean it in a hurtful way.
no,
But
no,
you
I'm
win.
asking you. I don't see it as a failure.
Yeah. You win or you lose. So you either succeeded or you failed. I don't. That's a very interesting question, because there is always a piece of me that yearns for the thing that I didn't do. And not in the sense of like like skydiving, I have zero interest to do that. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything by not skydiving. However, it wasn't my dream. My dream for a long time was to go to New York or go to Nashville and sing and perform. But going to what your spiritual guru said, if you think about this, I mean, look, I love the life I have right now. I have a beautiful wife. I have three amazing children. I have a roof over my head, and I I will get back to that more. But I feel like it. I was being saved by saying, "Let me come home for a little bit." And when I just said a little bit, I really only meant like a few months, like after I
Mhm.
graduated college. But if I would have gone to New York, I I got a lot of gratification and satisfaction and positive affirmation in this box. But in New York, the box is this big, or dare I
Mhm.
say big. So how easy would it be for me to do I get to just walk into the lobby of that community theater audition and just get the part? Probably not, because there's thousands upon thousands of people that are in New York trying to get that exact same thing that are probably either better or know somebody that I don't know. Um,
Mhm.
I do believe that I have the charisma to get in those rooms and be in those rooms. Eh, but at the time, it's that fear of the unknown. It's just like taking a new job, right? When you get a new job, you're like, oh God, I'm so nervous for my first day. It's like, why? You interviewed, you applied, you got it. And it's like, well, I don't know what software do they use? What kind of computer do they use? Is the person a jerk? What time can we go to lunch? What if we're 5 minutes late after lunch? Things
Mhm.
like that. There's a lot of this unknown. Um, so I will always hate not knowing what that would have looked like because I never got to see it. But
Mhm.
I love what I see in front of me right today.
So would you, if you could go back in time as a Tyler of that age, what what choice would you make?
The choice. It's hard because I've got a 43 soon to no, how old am I? 43-year-old head now. So it's hard to just like jump back there. Um
Mm.
I feel like I was dating a girl at the time, and that was really like the number one reason why I came back. We were only dating for I think we dated for a max of 2 years, but like at the time we were dating, it might have been a couple, 6, 7 months. So I guess what they would call like the Hollywood years, or the honeymoon stage. I mean, um, so I went back that way. I feel like if I was not dating her, I would have gone that way. But had I gone to New York, I would not have the wife and family that I have today. Would I at all?
So what, let me change that question then. If there was a kid who was in front of you who wasn't you, who was dating a girl and trying to decide between staying at home or going after his dream, what would you tell him?
I would tell him to get on the Megabus and take himself to New York.
Okay.
That's a better way to put it. Yeah, because that's and again, that's not to say where I am today I'm not happy. It's to say, if I had to do it all over again, professionally speaking, I mean, and look, the coming full circle, that girl who took me to an audition back when I was in 1994 to Snow White, that children's theater musical, she went on to be a Broadway performer, and I did not. I don't
That's
remember if she
insane.
went to college for performing arts or not, but she didn't go to Baltimore School for the Arts. She got rejected quite a few times because being a female in performing arts is much harder than being a male in performing arts. But she
Mm.
got on Broadway. She was in a couple different things. She was in Hair, she was in Beautiful, the Carole King musical, and now she is a realtor in Los Angeles.
Oh,
And that,
interesting.
yeah, and that's not me saying, um, she got to Broadway and now look at her. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is she did all the things that she wanted to do to reach her dream. She
Right.
reached the dream, and now she's on the other side of the country selling houses.
Right.
And yeah,
Yeah, like you never her name's not Anne Underwood, is it?
it is not.
Because I know a girl who was similar story, and she's now selling houses.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, even like a child star, right? Like they have fame for a bit, and there's some child stars who are now homeless. There are some childhood stars who are now, yeah, probably selling houses. Like, I think that's the great thing about a life. Like we have so much time to create, and I mean, I think I'm a good example. Like I did advertising for like 15 years, and now I'm making movies and like TV shows and stuff, and I'm somebody who thinks it's never too late to you know to do what you want. Maybe it's too late to become a childhood star, or to become like a big country music star, but there's other ways to make your dreams come true.
Well, and I also, one of the things when I did come back home, I was approached about starting a band, and I said
Yeah.
yes, and our band became very popular in this area, and
Right.
I very quickly learned that everything that I was looking for as a person, I was getting in the geography that I was living in, meaning like thunderous applause after playing a song with lights moving and fog coming out of the sides. I was getting all that. I was getting all of that twice a week, if not more, and I was getting paid to do it. Dare I say, getting paid more than the people getting tips in the pickle jar down in Nashville. So, like, I
Mhm.
very quickly got content with the idea of like I'm making money playing music. I'm just not. Um, I'm not on
You're not on
the
the
singing
national,
board.
like, stage, but you're on the
Right.
and I talked to, Easy Jackson. I think he was my first interviewee, and we talked a lot about local versus, like, local versus national, and I, now that I live in a very small village, I think local in some ways can be more important than national because you give people, roots and a sense of pride and a sense of they know you as well. It's not like this person that's far away on a big screen or like in a big packed stadium. Like the intimacy that comes with that, I think is also what we need more and more, especially in this age of AI and virtual, and like it's unfortunate you and I aren't in the same room. Like we're doing this virtually, but that's also the great thing about it. But I don't know. I think we do a disservice to not talk about how important local creatives are and local artists are.
I 1,000% agree because imagine if they're, whether you're listening to this or watching this in, I don't know, Towson, Maryland, or whether you're listening to it in England, imagine, or let's say Ireland, and I say that because my wife and I went there. Imagine being there and there being no music anywhere, like just no music.
Right.
I mean, like,
Ireland.
yeah. I mean, there was music everywhere, live music everywhere. And whether it be two old men strumming a guitar or whether it be like a big band. I mean, like it without the arts, you know, tangible or visual arts, I mean, we'd be a really, really boring society.
Yeah. No, I think that's such a great point. Like, and music in Ireland and music is the soul of that country. You're right. I
Mhm.
mean, it's that music. It's yeah. I have two Scottish friends in France. They actually go around touring in France playing Scottish music, and every time I listen to them, I'm just like I feel like I'm transported to Ireland, and it's like you see elves and fairies around you. Like,
Amazing.
it's like so I want to talk a little bit about your career in the radio because I think especially for artists who are up and coming, how like so how would you ever play local artists on the radio? And if so, like, how did people get into your earworm? Did you have talk to us a bit about like promoting yourself as an artist, and how to get on like a local radio station? If yeah, if it hasn't changed since you've left, but
It we rarely ever played local artists. And how funny of me to say that after what I just said about local artists and if there wasn't any. I mean, when you are so we were what's called a radio reporter. So what that means is in our uh, metro area, we are the indicator to the ratings, media base, billboard. We are the indicator to them of what's hot in the area. So essentially, however many times we play a song is important to the media based chart. It is not important what the others are playing, but the others will play what we're playing because we are indicating it to media base. So essentially, that's how that works. So as far as the amount of songs we play throughout the day, we don't get a lot of windows to not play the hits. You know, that's what keeps people there. No longer, especially because of social media now and all of the different places we can go to find new local music, new music. You got SoundCloud, you got Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, all this stuff. So
yeah.
they come to radio for the hits. So if you and think of all of the options that are out there now, all of those that I just mentioned, plus all of the radio stations on your dial. No one has dials anymore. Well, it's still a dial. It's not a transistor radio.
Yeah.
If they don't hear a song they don't know or they don't instantly their ear likes, they're just going to change. They're just going to switch. So our job is to make sure they don't touch that button, because how hard is it to change the station?
So did you have any power in that, in choosing what to play, or was that
yes and no? So I left radio as the program director, and the program director is the person in charge of everything that's on the air, meaning like the content, the DJs, and the music, and they're called jingles or sweepers in between. I'm in charge of where all that goes. Having said that, there are a ton of ratings, testing, scores that come out, and you pay for them, and they tell you like how fast a song burns, how slow a song burns. A record label could call and say, we're done with that song now. Like, let's say there's a song called Laptop. I don't know, I'm just staring at it. Song called Laptop. It's a big hit, and it's soaring up the chart, and it gets to number one. What is so crazy is if it's a number one song, especially because it's a business, and a lot of these major companies have one umbrella and branches of the record label. So we've got Table Records, and then it's Megan Records and Tyler Records. We're two different branches. If one of them gets a number one song, but you got another one from Megan Records right behind it, they will tell you, we're done with that song. You can move on from it. And we're asked to take it away from the number one spot. So Megan Records can get up to the number one spot. So it's a lot of
lobbying, kind of like.
Essentially. Which is why I always struggle with, it's a number one song. I'm like, what? That's great, but if it's a number one song, why do we get rid of it? Why did you come off of it? Or
right.
When it's payola, so no one's allowed to do this legally, but there is encouragement, like the week that people are going for a number one, they won't give you anything for it, but they'll say, we would really love it if you could give this song a couple extra spins this weekend before we get to Monday, because they want that song to get to number one. Well, if I'm pushing my car in the driveway to get it up there, is it still drivable? No,
Right, right,
I just pushed it. So
right. But so, because in the past, was it based off of like number of people that called in? Because wasn't it like number of people that called in for that, like wanting that to be played or something? Like I remember the 1950s like
yeah,
movie.
but think about what the 1950s didn't have. The 1950s didn't have all of these different outlets to go find music.
Mhm.
Um, and and
So
and
what does it take to be number one nowadays? What is it
uh,
based off of?
spins, radio spins.
Radio spins, right? So it's right. So
And
it's like
remember,
okay, but it's
it's
jigged,
different. It's
right?
different for every platform, right? So radio, it's the amount of spins that the song is played, even though it's not spinning anymore. It's just a digital recording. But
Right.
there's Apple. Apple has its own chart. Spotify
Uh-huh.
has its own chart,
Right.
um, and those are obviously streams. But yeah, back in like the 50s and 60s and stuff, you would almost have to, I'm probably telling this completely wrong, so forgive me if you're watching and a big Elvis fan. But I feel like Elvis, I, they would go in, like they would go into the radio station and say, hi, my name is Elvis Presley, and this is my debut, and this is my hit song. This is my first song. I'd love it if you could play it. And
Well,
then,
that's like that's at least how it's presented on the television, like on movies and TV. Like
Mhm.
you see the people like Johnny Cash and Bob Dylan like going in and like speaking to people, and it's
Yeah,
like why was it so easy back then? I guess because I mean there like I guess there were less people, but I don't know.
you mean what part was easy?
Well, I feel like it seems like did you watch the Bob Dylan film?
Not yet with Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah, it's Timothée actually. Um, Tim, Timothée Chalamet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and Bob Dylan honestly comes across as the biggest dick in the entire world. And I saw Bob Dylan live, and I can attest to the fact that um he was a dick when I saw him. He didn't play any of his old songs. He refuses to speak to the audience. He's like a stone wall. Anyway, hopefully I will never meet Bob Dylan and have this smack in my face. Um but anyway,
Bob,
Bob, Bob
Bob, will you
if
get in here?
Bob, if you're watching this right now, um, but he ends up meeting like a folk singer, Bob Seger, and they strike up as a friendship. And Bob like invites him to like sing in this festival, and then the movie makes it seem very like easy, to become a star. You just have to have like a backing of one person back then, and I just feel like nowadays um there's just so many barriers. It's such a business. It's such like, and it was always a business, but like, what do you think's changed so much beyond like the obvious of
I
technology
think
and stuff?
I think what makes it even harder now is we are now realizing how many talented people are on this planet. So you've
Mhm.
got American Idol, you've got The Voice, you've got Instagram, you've got TikTok, you've got all of these different places where people can just put their laptop up and sing a song, and if they sound good and have the right hashtags and get enough likes and shares, record labels see that. So if they see that Megan has, 3.8 million followers and all of her reels have at least 1.2 million views, they're going to consider you, even if it's just for a little while. If they know
So
that
it's
they can.
easier then in that respect.
Sure. I mean, think about it. It's it's easier in the respect that you can put your song out there and it can cost you nothing but however much your monthly phone plan is and your Wi-Fi access. You can sing that song and people can hear you. The problem is everybody can do that. So instead of being the talented person that has the drive enough to go into all these radio stations one by one with a record in hand and say, play my song, a la Bob Dylan, Elvis, what have you, they can literally sit in their bedroom in pajama pants and sing you a great song as long as they got a good filter and a nice background. But the problem is there's too much of it. So like there was a great interview with Clive Davis. Is that Clive Davis, the record executive? Mm-hmm. He's the one who found Whitney Houston. And people always said, or I think it was Oprah actually, who asked, how come you haven't who is the next Whitney Houston or something? I think she asked. And he said, there won't be. And she was like, what do you mean? He said, at least not from me. He said, I can go in to, and he said this very respectfully. He said, I can go into any Baptist church in a city or in the South, and I can pull you 8 more Whitney Houstons per county. Why would I do that as a businessman? Why would I make 8 Whitney Houstons per county when I can just have 1 Whitney Houston?
Wow. Oh, wow.
Because then you're just watering down Whitney Houston. If Whitney is the one, giving you the gold-plated toilet, why would you try to get rid of that?
God, that makes me think that all that we're sold, I mean, and what I'm saying might sound very obvious because I work in marketing and so do you, or have worked in marketing. But I guess I never thought about in this respect. Of course, I understood the package, artists are packaged, but we're so led to believe that they are one of a kind. They've done such a good job of it, of this marketing, of making us believe that they're one of a kind, that you'll never get another Michael Jackson, you'll never get another Whitney Houston. But you're right. Britney Spears, now I actually just watched a YouTube video about this guy who's talking about lip syncing and how Milli Vanilli, it was they had to bring Milli Vanilli down back in the 90s. Remember? They caught lip syncing during their, but actually nowadays everybody's doing it, but nobody's talking like Jennifer Lopez, she's not singing. There's been proof that half of her tracks aren't even her voice.
Well, and they're when they're oh, they just lip sync "God Bless America" at the Super Bowl, and somebody will say well, what do you expect them to do? They have 15 minutes to get on and 15 minutes to get off, and why are you giving them excuses now? Because you were tar and feathering freaking Milli Vanilli in the 90s. Why the free pass now?
Yeah, and I think it's just going to get worse and worse with AI. But it's so funny because it seems so obvious, but yet it's so ingrained as well. It's oh, of course, Whitney Houston. God, to think that Whitney Houston, there could be another, thousands of them around the world. What?
Well, I mean, and Whitney Houston, the best. She was the best to ever sing the national anthem for the Super Bowl. It was a CD single and it sold millions of copies. Is she the best to ever sing it? Or is she the best that we've ever heard on a national broadcast sing it?
Right. And that was marketed as such.
Right. But all they had to do was slap that on, get the word out that this is best ever.
Yeah.
And that's what we go with. And look, don't get me wrong. Whitney Houston is untouchable in as far as talent goes. But there are a lot of other untouchable talents out there that might just not have the resources or the funds or the family upbringing that knows the first thing to do about,
But I mean, back to the point of like, fame versus you going out there and, maybe protecting yourself by not doing that. Like, look what fame did to Whitney Houston.
Mm.
She's no longer with us. I mean, look,
Michael Jackson.
so Michael Jackson. I mean, Britney Spears, like you name it, like these
Elvis
people
Presley.
are, yeah.
Yeah, look,
So
I know myself well enough to know that if I were to have been left by myself, I make that sound quite orphan-like, but if I were to have been left by myself in New York City, uh, I would not have, at the age that I wanted to go up there, I would have made the worst decisions, the worst.
I mean,
And maybe would have gone down that, I don't want to say gone down that path, but um, I would have made bad decisions. And thank God I didn't. And what have you.
well, I can tell you from somebody who did go down that path, who, at 18 and crystal meth, bad boys, drug dealers, like drinking every weekend. Luckily, I never did the casting couch. That was something, but that was definitely something that was like pushed in my face as like, maybe you wanna go do that, and that was like my one thing of like my morals were no. But so I guess I want to go back to let's look at what can a meaningful creative life look like when it isn't optimized for fame, right? Like I think this we have such an obsession with fame, and yet as we just discussed, like it also destroys people. So what could it look like? You have a great example personally, but what are some other examples you've seen, and yeah, what would you tell young people?
So I got lucky in the sense that I, for young people, I would say this. One big thing that you have to remember is sometimes you can have all the talent in the world, but if you didn't step in the right pond or be in the right place, and nobody knows where that is. You know what I mean? Sometimes just good luck happens. If I remember correctly, that's how Jason Alexander got Seinfeld. George Costanza. He happened to be in the right place at the right time, and that's what he says. I was in the right place at the right time. That's just what. Yes, he was a performer before, but he happened to be in the right place with the right people, so that could happen. So you have to allow for some luck to creep in as well. I had no interest in being in radio.
Mm.
I came home. There was a singing competition at the local mall. I got in it. I sang in it. It was sponsored by the radio station, and I was just looking to make a couple bucks throughout the summer before I figured out whether I wanted to go to New York or go to Nashville. And they were like, well, we're doing a Subway and Rita's Italian Ice giveaway. So I spent the summer working 20 hours a week at the radio station, delivering Subway subs and Rita's to offices throughout the area because they won a contest. But through being in the building, I very quickly realized that not only was radio a performing vessel, but a lot of the people in here weren't really in here because they enjoyed performing. They were in here because they enjoyed being in a box where nobody was looking at them.
Ah, oh, that's
And
interesting, and that's
that's
where
a
you
lot
ended
of
up.
that's a lot of radio people. So I was actually the opposite of that. And of course, you have to climb a ladder. Like they're not just going to be like, "Oh, musical theater kid, hop on in." There. So there was climbing, and obviously there's a cool kids group, and I'm the new guy, so I'm not immediately in that cool kids group. So you have to. It will not happen immediately. It just won't. You have to give yourself patience. I don't care what kind of timeline you wrote down for yourself in a journal one day. It's good to have goals and like direction, but if being on Broadway by June 7th, 2031 doesn't happen, that doesn't mean you're not going to be on Broadway. It just means what you wrote down was not correct.
You're not God.
Right, exactly. You don't get to make that map. But what I will say is, art aside, we often heard at School for the Arts, and this is me sort of talking to the viewer slash listener slash you, people talking all the time about what does it take. How many people leave Baltimore School for the Arts and become famous? What's the percentage rate of fame for a School for the Arts? Because we know Tupac went here, we know Jada went here, we know that Josh Charles went here. So, famous people come out of here, but how many are famous? And our teacher at the time, Donald Hicken, said something that I will never forget. And he said, it all depends on what you define as success. Fame is one thing. And I don't think that's really what parents mean when they ask it for their kid. They mean success. So,
Yeah.
So
How do you define success?
Right. How do you define success? And you don't have to answer that right now. But he would say, if success for you is being in movies, winning Oscars, winning Golden Globes, the percentage is way less than 1%. But if success to you is being able to find a profession where you can use these tools and pay your gas and electric every month and pay your mortgage every month, I would tell you that answer is probably well over 90%. So we had friends that, that were a year above us. I don't remember her name, but she was in the theater and she left. I think she left early, but she's an attorney now. So she has taken her improvisational skills, her comfort of being in front of people that she learned, and her craft of knowing how to keep the ball in the air if it starts to fall to the ground in a court of law. So there are these tools that we learn through the arts that can be applied in the real world. We had travel baseball practice the other day. I coach it, and I cannot tell you how many theater things I tell the kids, but I don't tell them it's theater things.
Really?
Yeah. We start this. How we start practice every day is 3 at third base, 3 at second base, 3 at first base, and 3 at home. And it's just home throw to first throw to second throw to third throw to home. And it's just this diamond, right? You would be amazed at how difficult it is for them to do that. But if they were to just play catch, it's no big deal. So I finally stopped them all. And I said, just do it. Meaning, not hurry up. You're thinking way too much. Just do it. You've been playing catch since you were 4 years old. Why is this so hard? And so that whole idea of when we get in our head as an actor too much, am I moving this right? Am I doing this right? Am I supposed to pick the cup up like this, or am I supposed to pick the cup up like this? Just pick the cup up.
Sigh.
Right. Breathe in and breathe out. Right. Yeah. They start to side eye me when I start really getting theatery. I'm like, shake
yeah.
They're like, what? But yeah, so there's a lot of tools that are used that we learn through the arts that can be applied in everyday life. I know we all like being on stage if you are a performing artist. I did not realize how much I would be fulfilled by directing something.
Yeah, totally.
You actually get to use that creative part that made you fall in love with the theater so much more, and you never have to be on the stage. Meaning, what you're putting on stage or on film or whatever is your vision. It's your picture. They're the ones painting it, but you're the one with the brush. You know what I mean? They're the paint, you're the brush. And to watch it come to life is so rewarding for an artist, as opposed to getting that applause that I've always loved. Hearing the applause for them for making the picture that I wanted them to create, that is like top tier, great feeling.
Well, and I think that's the great thing about having all the experience you've had and I've had and all of our friends have had is that we there is no age to a director. There's no age to a filmmaker. There's no age to even a writer or, a producer. So I think that's exciting and that there are other opportunities of not just like performer. Performer is a very young person's game, not always, but you know, uh but I think the other realms, there's more and more possibilities of that. I had a question for you because going back to the documentary, which was my directing debut of a feature length film. Why did you agree to do it, and what did you get out of it? Being yourself, yourself, I guess, on screen.
Well, the contract was very hefty. It was I needed a lot of money. Hello, hello.
Oh yeah, the house came basically from the
My
documentary.
God, without it,
$1.
right?
I'm not.
$1.
I'm not. It's not ethical to pay your subjects.
I know. I understand. No, why I agreed to do it. I feel like there was something. I hate that phrase, by the way. Remind me to stop saying that. I feel like. Um, I hated it in high school too, and I can't believe I just said it. I mean it. I really don't like it.
Okay. Okay. We start. Pause. Restart.
I'm trying. So
Go back.
the documentary is. I feel like it was important because I got to our ensemble, our school, that plus that or that or that is something that is rare. It's something that not everybody gets to experience. More people get to experience a homecoming dance and a pep rally and a Friday night football game than they do a performing arts high school that starts at 8:30, ends at 4:10. We take a charter bus from Bel Air to Baltimore, or the mass transit. Yeah, city to city, and create lifelong friendships with a white girl from Baltimore City, a a black girl from Baltimore City, a black girl from Pikesville, just like from everywhere. And
Mhm.
when if you were to go to your local high school, it's probably the same group of people you went to elementary school with and preschool with and middle school with, and that's a beautiful thing too. I am not to downplay that. That was one of the hardest things I had to deal with when making the decision about whether or not to go to Baltimore School for the Arts, because I was with the same kids from kindergarten, preschool, all the way up to eighth grade, and then
Yeah,
it was,
same. Yeah.
and we didn't have Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, so we could just be friends. Now you have friends that do go to like K through 12 together, but they got friends that go to school on the other side of town, but because they were friends with this person and that person and that person, they somehow started following them on Snapchat or whatever, and now they're friends. We didn't have that. No
Right.
way we have that.
Right.
So I just think it's a very unique story with um, that doesn't resonate with everybody, but that would interest many.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
I think what resonates from what that's interesting you say that, and thank you. I am very curious because I haven't asked that question before, but I having shopped it around now for 7 years. Can you believe it's
I
been
know
7 years?
my son's getting his driver's license here soon, so you better hurry up.
No, shut up. Oh my
Might have been a
God.
newborn. I'm totally joking.
Oh my God.
The industry's hard. The industry is difficult.
Well, it was also following your stories. You know, things evolved. We had COVID. Things
Sure.
evolved over the course of time. People dropped out. People came back.
Yep.
We needed to get money. Got €100,000 grant for finally to finish it. But yeah, it's hard. But my point was that I think what people relate to it is also what is how first of all having a dream and then having that dream evolve into something different. And I
Mhm.
think everybody can relate to, like, who doesn't love a great story about friendships from childhood,
Mhm.
who like grew up together and then became
Yeah.
and have seen each other. And I think that's also what people relate to, and defining what success means for each of us.
Yeah, and I also think this. So I don't know why it took me sort of till now to not realize it, but have it like slap me across the face. Sometimes when you're put on a boat to an island, you expect to go to that island. But had you never gotten on that boat, you wouldn't even know that that island was even out there. So my point is, because I hopped on, and I'll just speak for me, because I hopped on, yes, I had that chutzpah. I was extroverted. I sang in the kitchen. I wrote songs and, had the fake guitar and stuff as a kid. Had I not learned about that one audition and fallen in love with theater, which I am forever grateful for, I wouldn't have done the next show. I wouldn't have done the next show. I would have never heard about Baltimore School for the Arts. Uh,
Mm.
that doesn't mean my life would have sucked. It just means that my life wouldn't have looked like that. Um, what would it have looked like? I don't know. But
Mhm.
just because I'm not doing what I set out to do at 13 years old does
Mhm.
not mean I'm not successful in what I'm doing today. So does that, you know what I'm saying?
100%, 100%. I had one last question well, actually two, because but the last question I ask for everybody is, what's the one thing you still haven't figured out about being an artist?
Hmm. What's the one thing I haven't figured out about being an artist? Um, Two parts. Number one, why are we all so emotional?
You didn't
Right?
cry, damn it! You didn't
I know.
cry.
I know. You were ready for it.
Uh,
I But what I guess what I mean is, like, um, why are we all so in tune with our emotions, whether they be positive emotions, sad emotions, angry emotions? We give it all. We get. I would even argue that visual artists are a lot like that as well. I speak a lot from what I know, which is performing arts, and the other part I still don't think I've figured out as an artist slash by becoming an artist is how to be a business person, because
mm,
it is a business. The entertainment business, the museum business, the studio business, the whatever, it's all a business. Nobody would open up these things, if it were, if they, I should say this: if it were free, everybody would do it. But you have to you have to run a business. We have to, things cost money. We have to make a living. Blah 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 blah. And I think that schools could be a bit better with that early on. And I don't mean to sound like an old man
yeah.
talking about school should be teaching how to file your taxes. Like, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying though is that, like, at University of the Arts in Philadelphia, the very first class I had about finances in the arts was in my second semester of my senior year. So
Oh, great.
essentially, right. So essentially, the heel of their foot was on my ass, ready to kick me out the door and hand me my diploma. And they're like, "Oh, by the way, you get 6 months off, and then your loans are coming in." You know what I mean? Like,
And I
That
never even got that class, so.
yeah, I know, but I mean, we got. I just feel like early on, and it shouldn't be to scare anybody, but we used to glamorize, um, like a Donna's coffee bar baguette and a bottle of water. Like, I'm an artist. Like, isn't this great? Well, now we're an adult, and that sounds awful. So
Right, right. Well, like I think the starving artists, I mean, I think the one thing is we were raised in the 90s where being selling out as an artist was still a thing. And
yeah,
selling out as an artist meant, becoming pop or mainstream or and I think, we all glamorize this like starving artist thing or as like, oh, the suffering artist. And now I feel like that doesn't really exist. I feel like there's no
yeah.
such thing. Like nobody wants to be so like they're like, oh, I just put my shit on like on TikTok and I'm gonna sell my soul. Like I don't give a shit.
I don't. I really don't. That's what's his name? Damon John, the guy who was on Shark Tank, and he created the FUBU brand that was worn a lot
Uh-huh.
in the 90s for us by us. Um,
Oh, is that what that's
he
for?
always, yeah, that look, today you learned.
I thank you. Every day's a
Yeah,
learning day.
I know. He said, he's a very successful man, but he said the goal is to not hustle. So many people talk about every day I'm hustling. I'm out here grinding. I'm out here. I never sleep. I'm always getting fit. He said that is so far from the goal. You know,
Right.
when you have people like Warren Buffett that say the only way you will become successful in life is if you can financially successful in life is if you can make money while you're sleeping. So
Yeah.
essentially,
Yeah.
stocks,
Having other people work for you.
exactly. So until you can do that, will never be like super wealthy. But yes, grinding and hustling is glamorized way more than I think it should be. At the same time, laziness is not the answer either. But
No, but I think like for example, I consider myself a hard worker and also like today at midday I took a nap for 45 minutes. Because I feel like that means I'm a success because I could like take a nap. I could go to my, I mean right now my house is being renovated, but so I have an apartment in the city and my house here and I go back and forth and I'm like I can take my dog for a walk. Like time for me is success. Walking in nature. Like
well, and on this and the same token, Mr. Wonderful, the other guy from Shark Tank, I don't watch that show a lot, but there's two references right there. He says, uh, "I don't care if you work um, 11 to 7, 10 to 6." Start at 8, stop at 10, start again at noon, and end at 1, pick it up again at 4, as long as it gets done. If that's the
yeah.
way you work
Right.
for the
Right.
most efficiency, because I know you and I know we've gone long, but I did have a quite a bit of a struggle with depression for a while. A lot of it had to do with my thyroid levels. A lot of it had to do with COVID. A lot of it had to do with being an unhappy professional adult and being stuck in this like purgatory of what could have been and where I am and did I make the right choice. Um, Also learned, I guess this 2 years ago at this point, that I was 40 years old when I found out, but I have ADHD. So as someone with ADHD, which Megan went to high school with me, it should come as no surprise that I have ADHD. Because as the doctor's telling me, I'm like, oh, I mean, I could have told you that. I mean, nobody told me. Nobody
Right,
asked.
right. It's a different way of like looking at the world. I think that's the thing. Once you learn your way of like working and looking at the world and learning, and then you're like, and if you can work on that, then you can be. But trying to fit everyone into a fucking same like hole is not gonna doesn't
Well,
work.
yeah, and I mean, like for example, like I'm on the clock right now, like as far as like work goes, but I guarantee you, I would just be making my mouse go like this. I do better like if I could do like a 10 to noon and then like a 2 to 3 And
Yeah.
then maybe, and honestly, once my wife falls asleep and, I'm laying next to her, but I have a laptop, I'll go 9 to midnight. I'll go 9 to 1 because the
Yeah.
world is turned off. No one's texting, no one's calling. And I just
Yeah.
got me and my laptop. But the second, like, cars drive by, world is going crazy on the news or whatever, and, we have a constant feed of shit coming our way.
Right.
I, my brain is like, and I just, work is not what helps. But I really think, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5. That's just not. That's
It's
not
no
how we operate.
surprise you were depressed. It's no surprise. I think anybody isn't depressed doing the same thing every day, like being forced to. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would never say I was depressed, but there were times I wanted to kill myself, and there were times that I like drank too much, and and I think that was also my corporate when I was in the corporate world. And as soon as I left that, like
Hmm. Well, and
everything.
I think this is a whole nother podcast, but that's why I think people glorify drinking so much. And I used to I drank enough in my 20s and early 30s that my liver just turned the sign to closed, meaning like, you don't need it anymore. So I don't drink anymore. I really don't. If we go somewhere and there's like, if there's an option for a soda, I'll just drink it instead of like a beer, because number one, I get migraines and I keel over when that happens, and alcohol helps that. But I think when we have this 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, we all know it sucks. So people come home every night, and what do? They either, go to their brewery or whatever, or they drink at home. And
Yeah,
and why?
yeah,
Why do you need to change your state? You're here now. You're home. You're in your safe place now. Why are you changing? Why don't you just drink at work?
right, right. No, let's not. We're not promoting that, but yeah.
Well, I guess my point is like, because that sucks so much, you have to
Right,
come home and drink to be a different person at the place where you're supposed to be yourself.
right.
It's
Yeah, yeah,
crazy.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, no, I go long periods without drinking because of it's yeah, I agree. What is one final thing that you would like to impart to our people, our good people of Whimsy and Grithood?
Yeah. Be If you are happy to be here and easy to work with in every room that you go in, you're going to work as long as you want. Now, it doesn't always mean the job that you want. Sometimes money takes precedence over preference of the gig. But if you're happy to be here and easy to work with, you will always be in a room where people want you to be. If you go into a room and um, you know there you pull diva, and you always look tired or act irritated, or even just have an irritated look on your face, it it's that fast that you could never work in a town again, because word travels so fast, especially now with like group chats and closed social media groups and stuff. Be like, don't hire this person. Just be happy to be here and easy to work with, and your days will go by a lot more smoothly. And you're going to find yourself working a whole lot more. That doesn't mean every gig you'll land every gig, but
Mm,
it's just better to live that way than live defiantly. And
mm,
also, the last thing that I will say is, do not get content in that biweekly paycheck if that is not what you have sought out to do. Meaning, if you are, I'll just keep using this example, no point in changing it now. If you're moving to New York to become a Broadway singer or a Broadway performer, and you get a job at a marketing firm, it's close because you're still dealing with the arts. You're putting out content about Ariana Grande. You're putting out content about, Timothy Chalamet.
Timothée.
Um, Timothée Chalamet. If you put out, so you feel like you're there. You're in the building. You're in New York. You're in a skyscraper. It's great. I promise you this. You are going to blink and you're going to be 40. And you will have not even put the key in the ignition. That's something we used to do to get cars to start. We used to put a key in the ignition and we would turn it. Now you just hit a button.
Oh my God.
But
thank you for explaining.
You're welcome. But I truly mean that. All jokes aside, you're going to blink and you'll be celebrating your 21st birthday. And the next thing you know, you'll be celebrating 35. And the next thing you know, you're going to celebrate 40. And you're going to go, what did I just do? Why did I come up here? I came up here to be a Broadway singer. I got that job so that I could pay the bills for this overpriced studio apartment. But now I've got nothing to sell because I was renting the apartment. It was too expensive, so I've got nothing in savings. I've got some great friends, but I just went to work and came home every day and never did anything. It never did anything for the reason I came up here to begin with.
Yeah.
So go get it. Go get it. Go get in the rooms. Go say hi to people. Go email your resume and go get it. And it might not be today. But as I said to one of my artist friends said to me, musician friends said to me, I was a 15-year overnight success. That's what he said. I was a 15-year overnight success, which means I grinded for my talent for 15 years. And it took one night for that talent to get in the right hand. And then it just began rolling.
I heard somebody else say that they didn't want to, I love this, that they didn't actually want to do anything that didn't take less than 15 years. And I think that's another way of looking at it is like, who really wants to be an overnight success, right? 15 years to build something, and then how much gratification do you get at the end of that?
Yeah. I heard a great interview. Sean Hayes, the actor, he played Jack on Will and Grace. Okay. He's very funny, but, a human. And he was talking about how he was seeing a psychologist, and because he was depressed, and he said, I had this thing that makes me very sad, and I had this goals list that he made, and it was move to New York, get on TV, get on SNL, and buy a house. And the therapist said, and let me guess, something catastrophic happened. And he said, what do you mean? He said, they all came true, didn't they? And he said, yeah, they did. And he goes, so what's on the list now? He goes, nothing. And that's a problem, right? If you're not going somewhere, if there's no goal, then you're just walking around. You know what I mean? Like, you have talent, you have dream, you have passion, but you have no goal. So what had happened was, and I know it's like an eye roll, like, oh, what a terrible life. You were on an NBC hit show, you're on SNL, you're in movies, you're getting residuals. Yeah, but as a person, he had no soul. He had no goal, no soul, and he was lost.
Yeah.
So going back to your 15-year thing, having a goal is what keeps the gas in the tank.
I mean, look at Jim Carrey, he got cloned in the end. It's just
Very true. Very true.
On that note.
Right.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I love this conversation. I could talk for hours with you. Obviously, I love you so much. We've known each other for 30 years? 13, no,
30 years.
3, just 3 years.
My hairline used to be here. Just for those watching, used to be here.
I used to not have Botox. No.
You have
But
Botox? I'm gonna tell. Do you have Botox for real?
a little
You can't
bit.
tell.
That's good. Because, yeah, it's
I'm
wearing
gonna need
off.
it.
So, yeah.
I'm gonna need it.
It's too late for you, Tyler. No, I'm just kidding.
Probably.
But honestly, thank you. And I'm gonna cut the Botox part, but leave the rest. I'm just kidding.
Whatever. I don't care.
All right, I'm gonna end this,